Psychic Cop Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, after that fight, I was talking to Doug after the game. It's kind of amusing. He's saying the other guys on the team that he talked to, it's like, wow, is that guy a ninja or something? No, and Doug's going, do you know karate? It's like, no. It's just, I don't know, it just seemed natural. It seemed like the move to make. Balancing on left leg and with my right leg raised in defensive position. But anyway, after the game, we were all leaving as a team. When we lined up it's one of the things you see at high school or any sports teams, college, high school, junior high. After the game, everyone kind of slaps hands, spirit of sportsmanship. And everybody on that team, slapped my hand except for like 3 people, and that kid wasn't in the line. Probably because he's getting a black eye. You get a black eye pretty soon when you get hit like that. So maybe he didn't want to show his face. But that game, the coach put in a guy, I played first base. Coach put in a guy that never played first base. He was obviously terrified. He's one of the kids that didn't go to the school. He just lived in the area and was on the team. He never played infield before, and so they put him on first base. And in the first 2 plays, he made an error. He just stood in the bag, and he couldn't catch the ball for some reason. And he's like out there, kind of panicked look on his face. I'm like, get him out of there. He doesn't want to be there. There's like there's probably a dozen. Everyone else on this team could do a maybe okay job at that, but this guy was out of his comfort zone, obviously. And that game was really close, and we ended up losing by a run in dramatic fashion. And after the game, that second baseman and the 2 people that came out to fight with him were by their cars in the parking lot talking trash. I went by him. He had his face turned. He's talking trash. He wouldn't face, and I kind of figured out it's because he had a black eye. They were talking trash, and all I said was, "How's your face?" I just walked off. And I thought about going back. The other guys in the team were, is he going back? Is he going back? I probably felt a little upset that they didn't come out and help, I guess. I don't know. Or guilty. But I wasn't I did what I had to do. I mean, I won. I go back and do it again. Did what I wanted, I guess. Did what I accomplished, what I set out. I don't know. The deal was done. It was over. He learned his lesson. But I had to go back with coach because it wasn't school authorized. They didn't have, if it was a school thing, we'd have bus, but we had to take private cars since it was summer league. And I had to go back with the coach. So basically, he got to blame me for the loss, even though he put in the wrong guy at first base. And anyway, Well, yeah, I got home and my brother had already called my dad. Sean got in a fight, he got beat up. Told me he got beat up. So my dad's all in my face. Well, he says you got beat up. He got on top of you and started hitting you. He never touched me, ever. I hit him almost knocked him out. Well, I did knock him out. Technically knocked him out in the first punch, and then I punched him 30 times in the face and then threatened the whole team. So I guess, I don't know what fight my brother was watching or that coach. But he goes, well, I can teach you. And I said, you can't teach me anything. I can do everything you can do. I can do stuff you never seen before, too. He didn't take kindly to that. But he is careful not to how far he pushed me to extent. But yeah. Yeah, there's another time. Yeah, that's the whole thing though, that season. I'd played on the same team with a lot of these guys since Little League, since we're teens. We played against each other on the same team for, you know, close to a decade. And this was our senior season, last time we'd be together. And we lost our first 3 games, which in that league, you know, it's kind of like a death sentence. Our goal was to go to state. The school hadn't been to state in known memory. So, lost our first 3 games, and it was like, oh man. I mean, you almost can't catch up from that. And the coach, we were all thinking, okay, that might ride off our senior season. Coach Victor Backlund came in and said, well, you know, no one's happy about this. You know, we thought we'd be better than this. But he came into the bus, and he's standing right in front of me. I'm kind of towards the front of the bus. Because it's not where we want to be, but we're like a wounded lion. And a wounded lion it's dangerous when it's wounded. So that's what we are. We're wounded lions. And he's like looking at me, and I'm kind of looking at him, and I look at everyone on the bus, and they're all looking at me too, and I just kind of thought, wounded lion. Okay, yeah. That's it. I can get into that. I can buy that. I just kind of nodded and looked at it. It's like he was asking me permission to, it's like, yeah, let's do that. And then we did go on a roll. We ended up winning 10 straight. There was a game in, I believe it was West Albany. See, people talk about timelines and things. I can tell when timelines shift. And it's easy to do if you know what you're doing, you know what to look for. It's when everyone else is surprised but me. That's when you know timeline shifts. That's like that game. See, I don't know what nasty thing was planned for the negative timeline, but I'm taking this up a notch. Everyone was surprised but me. There's a game in West Albany, it was the same thing. There's a guy, he was man on first, the batter was bunting, turned to bunt, he fouled the first one off. I saw the guy in first, he had ran all the way around second base. He was really aggressive. I thought, wow, that guy's gonna, when I turned to throw to first, he's gonna try to take third. So I was walking back, the shortstop was kind of standing. I said, Chris, I just kind of nodded at the guy at first and second base. So he's kind of okay. I just did it quiet, so it was just me and him. So the next bunt attempt was successful. He put one down. I went, got the ball, and I kind of hesitated because I was waiting for the guy running from first to go all the way around second again. And I just hesitated, made real sure I was ready, and I just spun towards second and threw a laser beam. He was holding it, shortstop was holding his mitt right at the bag, right where it needed to be. I threw a laser beam right into his mitt, and it beat the guy sliding in with his hand by like a quarter inch. He's out. And that freaked everyone out. No one saw that coming except me and the shortstop. And there's another play it was the last inning. We were down. We were up by a run, but they had the bases loaded, nobody out. And the guy squared to bunt, suicide squeeze. And the first one, it was a ball. Second time he squared, I was like, I don't know, 20 feet away from the batter, which is dangerously close. If you actually swung and hit something, I was taking my life in my hands. But I had the fastest hands. I have very fast hands. I have kind of very quick reactions at times. So I wasn't worried at all. But he did bunt it. He bunted up in the air, and I caught it. And the guy, it was a suicide squeeze. The guy from third was running on the play, and I caught it and doubled him off third. We got the third out and won that game. So, I don't know, 2 sacrifices. See, that was my thing in high school. That was my forte. Sacrificing, suicide, bunting. Coach would make game strategies around my bunting, sacrificing prowess. But yeah, we did go on to win 10, and we got in a 1-game playoff for the last place to go to state. And the last time that had happened was my junior year, or my sophomore year, when I played JV baseball. I remember that because it was a big deal. The varsity team had a 1-game playoff. But what had happened, this coach, he brought up one of the players on our team, a kid named Brian. And this guy was a three-sport athlete, one of the best athletes in our class. And for some reason, he brought him up for that 1-game playoff. And I thought at the time that was nuts, because I know if I was in his situation, we played in the same team in JV. I know if that was me, I'd be nervous as hell. Biggest baseball game in that school's history in over a decade. And he's bringing him up to play on a team he'd never played on. People he didn't know. They were same school, but never associated with any of these guys. I just thought that was a really strange move, because I knew the players on that team, on that varsity team. But it was just so strange how to ruin the chemistry of a team to a strange move like this. What had happened, it got to the last inning, and our school was up by a run. Another team was threatening. They had men on base, and this kid Brian was playing right field, and they hit a lazy pop fly to him in right field. Catch he'd make this catch 999 times out of 1,000. And this time he dropped it. It was just because he's in the wrong place at the wrong time, wrong situation, and he dropped it, and they lost that game, and they didn't go to the playoffs. And that was kind of devastating for kid that, you know, wrapped his identity in sports, to have that happen to him, and he didn't go to school the next year. And I blame the coach. But see, our senior season, we fought and we got to a 1-game playoff, and then that game, the coach decided to have our all-star center fielder, one of the fastest people in the league and one of the best center fielders in the league. He had decided to have him play first, which he had never played, which is my position, to take my spot at first. He had never played or practiced. He may have to practice one practice out of the whole season at first. It's when the other first baseman was gone. And that's it. He had never, hadn't played, hadn't practiced. So he put the center fielder at first, put the right fielder, Doug, in center, which Doug was the best right fielder in that league. I mean, he could play center just as well, but he never played there all year. I mean, there is difference. There's comfortable. I mean, if you've never played a position all year or practiced there, it's different. And then you had another guy play right. So defensively, they were all messed up. And really, if he didn't want me to hit, he could have DH'd for me. And I thought, that's absurd. Why would he do that? So I wanted to ask the coach about it. And we're doing kind of our normal tossing drills. You know, you warm up, play catch, warm up. I just quit playing catch, and I went to try to find him, and I couldn't. He was gone. But I found that they brought up the JV coach, this Gellings guy that hated me. I remember when I became his mortal enemy, his JV season. It's when his wife showed up one day. I was asking Doug, didn't she go to school here last year? He's like, yeah. So apparently he was dating her when she was going to high school, or close to it. She was 17 or 18 when they were dating. So he apparently saw me talking to Doug, or heard me talking to Doug, and that's when I became his mortal enemy. He looked at me, I remember he looked at me that day, he was like mad or something. I was like, okay. But his attitude completely changed. He thought I was great until then. After that, yeah, he had an interesting history at McNary after that. He fell in love with this football coach, Larry Miller, musclehead, that obviously on steroids, and I'm sure he promoted it amongst his students. And they ended up firing Larry Miller because no one would go out for football. People quit going out. Well, we have to fire him because no one's going out for football. And this Gelling got really upset. How dare they? Yeah, this Larry Miller, his coach, there was a thing in the paper once about one of these students that killed a cat, and he didn't kick him off the team. He said, "It's just a cat." His quote was, "It's just a cat, get over it." Just a cat. Kid killing a cat, just a cat. So that's the kind of mentality they had. That's why I didn't like them. I remember I told my dad about it. He wrote an article, letter to the editor in the paper. This is before internet and stuff. Everything was newspaper and 3 TV stations back then. But yeah, I thought it was ridiculous, so I went up and talked to Gellings. He goes, well, if you think that way, why don't you quit? Okay, good idea. That's what I did. So I just played catch. I just told Doug, I'm gonna quit. This is ridiculous. So I just walked off the field. I was leaving the pitcher. Telling me, he's see you, Sean. It's like later. I just told him, hey, you guys beat him by 20 runs. So I just went home. I took off my uniform and came back, and I parked near the tennis courts at the school got with binoculars, and I watched that game. That guy that put at first base, he missed a short hop. The ump called him out, but he missed the call. He missed that ball. He dropped it, but they called him out anyway. And they lost that game. There's a point in the game where the other team was ahead by a run, I think, and the tying run was coming around third, and it was Doug. He can fly. Doug was fast. He's racing around third, going to score, and the coach held him up for some reason. It's like, no. Like he's like half, a third of the way home, and he gets held up, and he goes back, and he got doubled off. He either got doubled off or stranded. I remember he didn't score. It's like, what was that? I remember I screamed at them, what are you doing holding him? Could have scored easily. But yeah, I talked with guys that went to that school afterwards, and he had a history of doing this, making strange moves at the most important game of the season. He'd make the strangest personality. He'd just destroy chemistry of a team. It's like he was sabotaging his team. And Coach Backlund ended up going to parlaying his coaching prowess into being elected to the state legislature. Very first vote was on education, something he did for 26 years as a teacher. First vote was education. He voted party line, Republican. And the people in the district going, hey, what are you doing? He tried to change his vote. Very first vote, he tried to change it after all the people in his district got upset. So his critical decision skills are not very good. So anyway, yeah, I quit my team. Been on with these guys since Little League, since we were teens. And that's how my baseball career ended. So then, we graduated after that. A lot of guys talked to me. I talked to, hey, they didn't blame me. I don't blame you, Sean. It's like things. It's nice to hear that they kind of understood. And anyway, that was my baseball career. And kind of after graduation, I was kind of looking for what to do. I was thinking going to college. It was like shortly after graduation, I was looking out my bedroom window and at home, and I saw a couple of guys, neighbor's car. what's he working his car at night? That's strange. But there's 2 people. That's really weird. So I just thought I could go to the garage. It was closer. And if I need to get outside, I could open the garage door. So I went out and looked through the garage window, and there's 2 guys. One of them had something on his shoulder, and they closed the car hood and they started walking. I thought, okay, this is strange. So I just thought, well, there's no quiet way to open a sliding garage door, so I just threw it open and kind of jogged out in the middle of the street behind them. They're like, I don't know, 60 feet ahead, 50, 40, something like that. They're some distance. They're about 50 feet ahead. They were walking. One guy was carrying something. So I go, "What you got there?" And they just bolted. He dumped whatever was on his shoulder. He went thunk. Thunk. I thought thunk. That sounded really heavy. And they just booked, started running. I chased after him. I was wearing my pajamas and, socks. And after we started running, the other guy in the left threw something. And I could hear it hit, chunk, chunk, hit the curb. Wow, what was that? So I chased him a good, close to 100 yards. And I was kind of catching up a little bit, but my socks, if you're running in socks, they kind of unwind. So I had, the top of the sock was right around my ankle, and I had these big flapping socks in front, so it was kind of hard to run. But I gained a little bit on them. But they still had a lead, and we got to the kind of where the street does an L, and they split. They went between the houses into the darkness. They split up, so I thought, oh man, I don't know that territory. That's all backyards and stuff. So I don't know. I guess the pursuit ends here. I thought if I go back and get the police soon enough, they might be able to corral them or something. But yeah, they took out a radiator and an alternator, and they took a bunch of stuff from the car. But it's pretty strange. They took out a radiator and an alternator from this car at like 11 at night. But yeah, that was that. And it was shortly after that I left home for good. Well, not for good, for a short time, till I came back, had to come back. It's when 3 in the morning I was smoking weed out bedroom window, had the bed pushed up against the window and I was on my knees, and Dad throws open the door and turns on the lights, sees what I'm doing, and I kind of half turned around. He like pounced on the bed and punched me with the right hand and the left, and the left knocked me on the floor, and I kind of rolled up and was facing him. Well, he comes down here. I was just, if he made a move to come down, I was gonna hit him right where it hurt him the most, right between the legs. I was gonna either kick him or punch him, but yeah, he backed off, and then I left home. I did another video about this, but yeah, it's like I found after that. I was always wondered about this, like I found myself at the wrong place at the right time, or I asked someone about this, and it's like I kind of sense disturbances. The way it was explained to me, I kind of sense disturbance, and I'm kind of drawn to balance things. And that's kind of what it was, I think. It's what it is with me. I worked with Yellow Cab. They had a monopoly at that time. They were the only cab company in town. People hated them with good reason. They didn't care because they didn't have to care. And all their drivers, no trained drivers, no training for that job. When I started working there, this is 96, I think, right before I did a 20-year stint at a hazelnut processing plant. But yeah, when I started working there, I thought these guys are pirates. Guys that work at night were pirates. A lot of them. Guys worked the day, they're professional. They took their job serious. Guys at night, it's a hard way to make money. It is. You gotta scramble. If you do that for a living, it's gonna be hard. You're not gonna get a lot. But you do meet a lot of people. And that was nice. But the thing I found, they were the company that was driving all these disabled people and foster kids, things like that. I thought, these pirates are driving these little kids and these developmentally disabled people. I mean, that does not seem right at all. And I thought, well, if I ever get a chance to, hey, check out these guys. These guys want to say hi. Hey, baby. Hey, sweetheart. Wish I had some food for you. I usually save fries, but I don't have any fries. Oh, those crows are annoying, aren't they? There's a squirrel, too. All sorts of stuff out here. Anyway, where was I? There was a little blackbird. But yeah, they were pirates, and I thought, well, if I ever get a chance to put these guys, and I had a lot of problems. Dispatch was completely crooked. There's another guy that worked same shift as me, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., and he'd spend 4 hours a night playing video poker in the bar. I'd ask how much. He booked the same amount as me. That's outrageous. That's ridiculous. I didn't call out all day. He goes, yeah, I booked as much as you, and I sat in the bar for 4 hours. I go, well, that's BS, because I didn't call out the whole night. So I told, I made it clear, and so I started getting some calls after that. But still, it was. And there's one night I was driving down State Street, one of the big streets. This was night. It was really humid out that night. Super hot. All the guys we had an epic weekend the weekend before, and they were thinking the same. Oh, it's going to be the same this weekend. It was dead. No one was moving because it was so hot that day. Hot and humid. Sun had went down. It's just starting to cool off. So I thought, I was rolling down State. I was going to be one of the last in line downtown, so I wasn't in any hurry. I got a soda, and I smoked cigarettes then, so I was smoking and had a soda. I had the radio up, and I was kind of bopping along. The weather changed. It just started to cool down. I went past used to be a Circle K back then, one of these little stores, Convenience Mart. I saw a car ripping out of the parking lot down the side street, and a guy in a little compact car full of people, driver runs out through the parking lot into the middle of that side street, goes bam, bam, bam. 3 shots at the car leaving. And then he kind of stops and looks around and walks back to his car in the parking lot. I thought, holy, I just drove by like I didn't see anything. Just drove by till I got out of eye shot and I got in the radio. And you're not supposed to cuss because it's a public airway, but I wanted to get his attention. I said, holy S, I just saw a guy shooting at a car leaving a parking lot at the Circle K on State Street. And the dispatch go, okay, just hold on, I'll get the police. So we got the police. He goes, okay, where are they now? It's like, I don't know. I'll have to go back. So I immediately took a side street after I got past and turned around and got back on the state. I go, well, I'm gonna have to drive by and see, and then as I was driving up, they were coming out onto the street. So I drove right in front of them, and then I took the nearest right. So I go, well, they're coming up on State, and it looks like they're turning right, going east. So I did it. I took the nearest side street, and I pulled into the driveway, and I saw them in my mirror that they went by. So I did it again. I turned out and went back on the state. And then I followed them. They went to another convenience store right by the penitentiary. First place near the west of the penitentiary, where my brother worked. Was probably working at that moment. But they went there, and I parked across the street, and the driver went in and talked to the clerk there for what seemed like, why he didn't look like he bought anything. He's just talking to the clerk. And but then he got in the car after a while, and I'm talking to the dispatch. Hey, they're parked there. They're sitting there, I'm waiting. And he goes, well, there's a double shooting at Pringle. There's a murder double shooting at Pringle, so a lot of cops are there. That was like 10 blocks, south of me. I mean, you'd think someone there would be smart enough. Well, maybe this has something to do with that other shooting, but no one put it together, I guess. But anyway, I'd waited across the street, and they eventually, after about 5 minutes or longer, they left that convenience store and went down the side street in 25th. Right next to that, it was a Plaid Pantry then. So I went to the Plaid Pantry where they just were like minutes ago, and they parked at the end of that street. And I'm sitting there waiting. What's going on? I'm kind of waiting for someone. It's like, it's coming. And I see, I'm waiting there a long time. The people I'm waiting for, they eventually get in their car and they start coming back up the street. Like, they're coming right at me. It's like, oh boy, okay. I pulled my head, and I got some paperwork, and I'm starting to write. And they passed right by me up to this State Street again. I just went and dispatched. Just go, hey, if no one's coming, I'm going to quit following these guys. Because they've already shot at one car, and they've been within 10 feet of me twice. So, if no one's coming, I'm going to quit following them. And he goes, oh, wait, there's one coming. He's on State Street now from Lancaster. He's coming towards you. I go, well, okay, I'm going to have to go catch up with them then. So I got back on the state. I'm going along, and I see the cop in my mirror. He's like going like 80 miles an hour down state. The speed limit's like 35. I'm going 60. I catch up, and I get up close, and he cops beside me, and I'm up, and I see him. I goes, yeah, there it is. Them. Yeah. So that car, they turned right on 17th, and cop followed him. I went straight, and I doubled back, and they pulled him over on 17th at a church parking lot. So I don't know what happened with if anyone got arrested. But interesting thing, the next night I got a call at Marion County jail, and the guy gets in. He's this Hispanic guy that shot at the car. They looked Hispanic. Guy's driving. He goes, "Yeah, someone said I shoot at someone. I didn't shoot at anyone. Someone said I shot at someone." It's like, oh, someone said that. Oh, that's wow. Huh. I wonder why someone would say something like that. It's so strange. I wonder if this is one of the guys that anyway. But I just thought, yeah, these in the dispatch. I went back after that, and the dispatch go, well, next time, all the other drivers were kind of PO'd because all their calls they weren't getting calls when they should. But nothing was happening that night. Dispatch kept saying, hey, you guys, be patient. We have nothing's going on tonight. You're not missing anything. They were all, and the dispatch was a jerk about it. After I got back to the office, going, well, next time you see that, something like that, just keep driving. So I just thought about that whole situation. If I ever get a chance to put these guys out of business, I'm going to do it. And lo and behold, I did. Or I made it. Just made it. I worked in Salem. That's a state capital. There's a lot of government offices. You get a lot of state workers. And a lot of state workers, they don't drive. Say their car breaks down or they're getting it fixed today. They need drive to work. So a lot of things that people that drive cabs and a lot, they want to know, what's it like to drive a cab? And I'd tell them, but I'd bring it around to the other drivers in the situation. I'd say, a lot of these guys, they don't have any training, and they're driving around disabled people and little kids and stuff. A lot of these guys, I wouldn't have them drive my mother across the street, and yet they're driving the little kids. And every state worker I got, I'd tell them this. And I got a couple of people there, upset as I was. I can't believe that. I said, it's the only cab company, there's no choice. I can't believe that. That's outrageous. I go, yeah, I know. So I ended up quitting that. I had a lady that spit in my face. I'd driven her and her kid around a few times. Some of the other drivers had problems, but I hadn't then. But I picked him up, South Salem. I was driving him into town, and we pick up her friend, this other girl, who'd stiffed me for like $20. I said, well, hey, you owe me $20. So I've already got stiffed once. I'm not going to get stiffed again. You pay me some money now, and I'll continue driving. Otherwise, I'm not going to go any further. And she took the lady with the kid, was incensed, spit on me. And I called dispatch, hey, I need a cop. I just got assaulted. Anyway, it was a whole big scene. Dispatch didn't back me up. So I'd had my fill of yellow cab. Every state worker I got, when I quit that job, I worked my first season at the hazelnut plant, which was hell. But after that, I needed another job, and I worked for the first company that was in competition with Yellow Cab. They were just starting out. I said, oh, this is my opportunity. And I stuck the fork in Yellow Cab. I told this guy, you know what, you make scratch pads and pens and little notebooks and give them to every bar and restaurant in town, because they are dying for another cab company. And we immediately pretty much crippled their business. And we could have totally took their radio signal if the owner of this place hadn't been a coke addict. This guy was out of his mind. But that business eventually failed, but the damage was done. I mean, they had to make it to where if you're driving kids or developmentally disabled, or I'm not sure the politically correct term for it is, people that aren't able to defend themselves, basically, you have to have some training, or you have to be qualified in some way. There has to be a license or something. So yeah, the damage was done. They started making medical taxis, medical transport. And I eventually worked for 2 companies that did just that. So I have kind of made a job for myself in a way, I think. And ruined the monopoly for Yellow Cab. So yeah, it's like I'd see disturbances. There's a lot of instances like this. I remember the day I saw my dad for the first time in 8 years at the hospital. My brother calls up. Hadn't talked to my brother for 7 years. Didn't talk to my dad for 8. My brother calls up. Well, Dad got in an accident. He's probably not gonna make it from the injuries, and so it's a whole weird thing. Anyway, we were out in the parking lot talking. I hadn't talked to him 7 years. He's telling me about some fantastic thing he bought. I was in the parking lot kind of looking at this girl's backing up. She's backing up forward, and she's trying to, it's by the emergency room at the hospital. It's really narrow, the parking lot. I've never parked there, but both the cars were right next to her lane, so she's trying to thread the needle. She's backing and forward, and I see this other girl, when she's just like this. She looked like she's in another zone or something. Wasn't paying attention. She's driving way too fast down the side. I was looking at this, I'm looking at her, and look at this car. That girl's gonna run right into that car. My brother's talking, he's not listening to me, of course. As soon as I see the backup lights come on, she's starting to back up, and I just went, "Hey!" as loud as I could, and she stopped, and the car goes right by her. And my brother stopped talking, and he's like looking at me with this mad look on his face. I go, "Oh, that girl's about to get rid." He was mad at me because I interrupted his story. I was looking at him. He's kind of like this pissed off look on his face. I go, "That car was going to run right into her." And he continues with the story, and the girl gets out of her car, and she's kind of looking around. She kind of waves, "Thanks." It's like, "Glad to help." My brother's just he's got this weird look on his face, like he's mad. Didn't care if that girl got both those people's lives were messed up. He's mad as I interrupted his story. So, I quit talking to him soon after that again. I remember why I quit talking to him. But yeah, I feel disturbed. There's another time I was at a stoplight and see this guy and this girl, they're like arguing. There's a van ahead of us. Van with all these kids in it. There's like 6 kids, and they're all, I can see them running around in the van. None of them wearing a seatbelt. And the light turns green, the van goes, and this guy and this girl are behind the van, and they're still arguing. He sees the car next to him go, so he like hits the gas, but the van had went up like 40 feet and it was taking a left. I've been on this road, driven this road for decades, and you could park there all day and see maybe 1 or 2 cars doing what that van was doing right then. Take a turn at that left, because it's, people just don't do that. I mean, that's just one of the weirdest intersections in town, where River meets Broadway, and there's a lot of wrecks there. But this guy's arguing he wasn't paying any attention. I mean, you drive that all day long and you'd never have to look for that. But this van with all those kids, unfastened kids, stopped there. This guy hit the gas, and I didn't move. I saw it was happening. I hit my horn, and he looked up right in time and hit the brakes right before he crashed in that van, and he continued arguing with that girl. He didn't know where the horn came from. And the van turned and they went on, but I don't know. It's just being observant. But yeah, it was explained to me that I kind of sense disturbances like that. I think of it like, it's like the Force. It's a disturbance in the Force. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen. Is more. I'm trying. I kind of wanted to be a cop and make things right, but I'm looking for more of my people like me. You know, being around negative, it's exhausting. You can't balance everything out. So anyway, that's that. Love you. Bye. To be continued.